So Frieren is now the top rated anime on MyAnimeList, the biggest anime forum, meaning that a math system of everyone's collective scores decided that this was the best anime on the planet. For the longest time, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood stood upon the top, mainly due to degenerates botting the rankings, but now a show about an elf girl ran away with the title. But does it deserve it? Don't get me wrong, I don't care about this list. I actually own one of these, but it's still interesting to see why the internet thinks an elf missing from the North Pole deserves to be #1. So I watched it. I wanted to form my own opinion, and after watching it, I think it's pretty good. Not #1 in the world good, but I can understand it. And even though I don't agree, I'm gonna defend it. So for the people in the back that don't know what this show actually is, Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a fantasy anime that follows the life of Frieren, an elven mage who will live for a very long time. Unlike most isekai in fantasy, this show actually starts after the Demon King has been defeated. To make a comparison, it's like the show starts after you become champion and beat Pokemon. You spend your time just doing side quests, catching all the Pokemon, and replaying through the game. And in Frieren's case, it's finding books, learning new unique spells, and reliving old memories. Unfortunately, the party of heroes she defeated the Demon King with are humans, meaning that they will die pretty soon as opposed to her. And that's just what happens. The other heroes begin to die, and Frieren realizes that she didn't make any deep bonds with her friends. Because in her eyes, this decade-long adventure was just a mere 10 years. Time wasn't a precious thing to Frieren because what's 10 years when you're going to live 1,000 more? And now she has regrets of not getting closer and applying the right emotions to them while the time was ticking. And so, her friends keep dying. One of them leaves her with a foster kid, and she embarks on an aimless journey. And the show follows this journey, where Frieren confronts her regrets of missed opportunities to form deeper bonds with her old comrade, while making sure not to waste time with her new apprentice. To quickly compare it to something, it would be a mix of Wandering Witch and Mushoku Tensei, because it's got the peaceful lesson-learning nature of Elena, who I must add is another white-haired mage. Like, what's up with that? Why all the white-haired magic casters? Bundled with the slice of life, but also action-packed elements of Mushoku Tensei. And considering the fact that I think both of these shows are pretty good, I was bound to like this one. After 15 episodes, my Zoomer attention span has been kept. Everything about this show is stellar. The animation, the story, the world building, and characters are also interesting. Most people don't have any criticisms to give the show because it's just that well written. When I'm watching or thinking about the show, I can't think of anything wrong with it, except for one thing, but I'll talk about that later. But of course, when something is regarded as the best, people will find anything to hate on it for. Sometimes they're valid, but most of the time, it's just people wanting to be different. And after reading a ton of negative reviews, I concluded that most people just want to be different. Dumb criticism #1. Typical. Among the most popular criticisms, this was one of them. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to call a show typical or basic, but that's only when it's actually typical. Calling this show typical and filled with tropes without expanding on it is just a blatantly lazy review. Can you tell what tropes are in use? I don't think this show is full of tropes. Sure, there are some fantasy elements, but that comes with the genre. I guess one trope is the whole fighting a Demon King thing, but he's kinda defeated before the show even starts. For example, most of the typical reviews I read are people calling things that are building blocks for the fantasy genre standard, basic, and typical. Like this one. Fantasy genres are usually set in a fantasy world, and you can't know the world without exploring it. No need to reinvent the wheel, so just have the characters go explore that world. So being angry that the show explores its world and tries to build it is a stupid thing to say. And to dunk on these reviews a little bit more, the way Frieren deals with exploration is much different than the anime you're probably talking about. Frieren's party will often stop at these places that hold little to no importance instead of big landmarks that are known by all. A random guy in a shack was enough to make half an episode off of. And instead of being there to fix something like a quest-filled RPG like anime, they're not there for any reason other than it's cold. Exploration in the show feels much more real than other fantasy anime, and it definitely does a good job at taking pre-existing tropes and spinning them into something unique. Dumb criticism #2. Bland characters. Another common review I see is calling the characters bland and boring. Most of these reviews only make it to around episode 3 to 5, so I can infer that they're talking about Frieren and her apprentice Fern. Some of them will call Frieren emotionless when that's just not true. In the first episode, she literally cried her eyes out, and I'm pretty sure it was for 3 days. Frieren has a stoic personality, and a stoic person is not an emotionless person. The definition of a stoic person is a person who can endure pain or hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. And the second definition is Frieren. Both of those definitions do not say they don't have feelings. The entire anime is about Frieren confronting her regrets about wasting time with people important to her, going back to these moments where she didn't show emotion and reimbursing them with the right ones. And if you missed that, I'm sorry, it's raps. You missed the entire plot of the anime. And this actually happens within episodes 3 to 5, so it's safe to say that you did miss it. And in regards to Fern, I didn't give her a good introduction, so I'll do it now. Fern is a random orphan child that one of Frieren's hero friends entrusted her to mentor and protect after he died. Just like Frieren, she's a mage that loves magic and takes after Frieren in more than a few ways. And this is where I can kind of agree with the negative criticisms, but not really. Actually, not really at all. Reviews will say she's shallow, but also not true. At the start of the anime, when the show is still finding its footing, it's easy to miss these moments where she is clearly having some deep dilemmas. And not to beat a dead horse, but if you miss the point of the show, this stuff isn't gonna catch your eye. In episode 2, Frieren and Fern are looking for a certain type of flower. Fern is very bothered by the fact that Frieren may be searching for a flower that doesn't exist and that she doesn't understand Frieren. This is later resolved in the episode in a sentimental way. Is this the bland character you're talking about? And that's still not even including the interesting relationship she develops with the other foster kid later in the show. I wouldn't call any of these moments emotionless or bland. I would just call it a whoosh going over people's heads. Pure examples of people not actually understanding what they're watching. Dumb criticism number 3. Boring. A summary of a show is a fact, but a review of a show is an opinion. Unless it's my reviews, in that case it's both. The most common criticism people like to say is that it's boring. And I agree, duh. Look, that might not make any sense, but bear with me. When I first started this show, I was bored. I won't even sugarcoat it. I fell asleep watching one of the episodes. But now, I really like it. What happened? Well, this show is slow-paced. Whoa. Yeah, it shocked me too. I'm not a frequent watcher of slow pace, but once I got my brain moving and the gears turning, I started enjoying the anime. This anime wants you to think. Approach it with an open mind. Do that and you'll get the most enjoyment out of this show. The anime likes to ask philosophical questions and show you why they matter. When you turn on your brain and start thinking about the questions they present you, the show won't feel as tedious or long. Sure, there's cool battle scenes every now and then, but that's secondary. They give you time to relax and actually think because this isn't intended for the Subway Surfers gameplay under clip watchers. And straight up, a relaxing show isn't a boring show. A show that likes to focus on the small things may not be the most appealing, but it doesn't make the show bad. It becomes boring when the things they are doing hold no weight or substance. In episode 4, Frieren and Fern clean up a shipwreck along a beach. At first, it seems like it's just for another one of Frieren's books, but later it becomes a reason to stick around so Frieren can reimburse another memory. The author didn't just put this here for no reason, it gave exposition and build up to the moment they were going to share with you later. You can't have a show without exposition and build up. If you don't enjoy this stuff, that's cool. Go watch a different shonen like JJK or something. But just because you can't find it in you to think or care about the small stuff doesn't make the show boring. It's just not your type. One guy on Mal even disguised a positive review as a negative review to try to deter people who will probably not like this show from making the mistake. Because that's the most common criticism, and it's not even a good one. If you have engaged by now, every criticism I've called out is either one that's just not a criticism or some people not understanding what they're watching. Most people have zero criticisms for the show. That's why it's rated so high. There aren't many things you can call this show out for. That doesn't mean there aren't any criticisms though. I myself have one, but only one. And I'm sure other people will start to find their own cause no story is perfect. But after 16 episodes, most reviews are stupid with no substance. Because let's be honest, what's not to like? This isn't criticism. It's praise. If I had to coin Frieren, I'd say she's a cute old badass. She always fights with a level head and looks cool while doing it. But she also has these carefree moments that are just cutesy to be cutesy. And then she's just old. Also, she's racist. You know, I don't know, I just couldn't cheer for racism without laughing. Each of these characters are well written with motivations and personality types that create interesting dynamics and moments. When something impacts a character, it fits together with what you already learned about them. The humor is okay, you can straight face most of the stuff, but if you really want to enjoy it, you will. Like telling demons to kill yourself now! An S tier mage losing to every single mimic chest. And whatever this was. I made my PFP on Discord low tier Frieren cause not only was this scene hype, add a meme to it and it was hilariously hype. The animation and music do wonders for everything and everybody. The settings look so cool and the battles look like they want to work at Studio Mappa, which is actually a downside, but F it, we ball. Reviews say that the animation doesn't bring out the character's emotions. Well, here's my defense. And if I may fangirl for a little bit, yo Asobi, what an amazing opening. Please notice me. You were my #1 for Spotify rap this year, and I actually have the book 3. Look, it's Frieren. Please, just like at me on Twitter or something, come on. Alright, I'm done. And hold up, let's not forget about the calm and relaxing nature of the show. It tackles tough and general life questions like purpose and meaning while still feeling relaxing. Something as small as finding flowers can feel like you're seeing a character discover a new part of themselves. Life-changing experiences don't always have to be big and loud. They can be subtle and quiet too. Okay. Enough glazing. Let's talk about my one criticism. Valid criticism number 1. Show, not tell. I may have bipolar disorder the way I'm able to just go from praising Frieren to criticizing it. My one and only criticism for this amazing anime is telling, not showing. What do I mean by that? Well, my favorite part of an anime is when everything that was explained just falls together and works. When you get to be immersed and experience the story without directly being told how to feel. That's showing. However, sometimes the show will just tell you what to think or feel. It's not all the time, but it is sometimes. I'll use episode 7 as my example. A heavy case of telling not showing is when they're introducing demons to the world. Going back to the racism thing, Frieren believes all demons are bad and only know how to deceive for their own gain. And it's true, but that's not the issue. Instead of showing you that's the case, they had the characters straight up tell you. Frieren encounters a peaceful demon in a city. After the first encounter, she has a flashback to when she first encountered a demon on her previous journey. The demon does some bad stuff, but then something interesting happens. The show makes a play where it paints demons as either misunderstood creatures who could desire peace, or devilish creatures who are destined for bloodshed. And by the end of the flashback, you can draw your own conclusions. But that freedom of thought is immediately stripped away. 2 scenes later, they have the demons themselves tell you what's true. That wasn't necessary. That bit of dialogue was not only unnecessary, but it ruined immersion temporarily. Because at that moment, it was already spoiled what would happen next. If the audience wanted to know what was going to happen, they would have just looked it up or gotten spoiled by obnoxious AOT and JJK fans. You never expect to get spoiled by the anime itself. Yeah, with a lot of anime you can predict, but you still never really know what could happen. Show me the show. Don't tell me the show. I'm not blind. Shout out to all my blind watchers. We have eyes for a reason. Shout out to all my blind watchers. If you've enjoyed the show so far, you've obviously thought about the things you've seen. Let us keep thinking. That fact alone is what keeps me from rating it a 10. That alone is why I don't think it deserves to be the #1 anime. I can understand why it's #1 and even be okay with it, but I can't agree that it should be. But it doesn't matter to me, right? Like, remember, I take showers. But hey, that's just an opinion. An anime opinion. Thanks for watching. Now, if I could sell out real quick, like, comment, and subscribe. It would be really helpful. Your late Christmas gift to me should be 2,000 subscribers. I'm out.